It was a busy day on the narrow gauge railway. Peter Sam enjoyed shunting freight cars. And he also enjoys his run with his brand new coach, Catherine. Catherine is orange. She was very helpful with Peter Sam. But whenever there's a problem, Peter, Sam, and Catherine were off to the rescue. One morning, Peter Sam was talking to Rusty and Sir Handel. "I must say," said Peter Sam, "I like Catherine." "Who," said Rusty, "is Catherine?" "She's a mounted coach," said Peter Sam. Sir Topham Hatt knew that Catherine is special. She was ordered on this railway last week. "Your coach is nothing compared to my splendid wheel," said Sir Handel. "And my special funnel," boasted Peter Sam. Then Sir Topham Hatt arrived. "A new diesel has just arrived in our railway," Sir Topham Hatt declared. "A diesel? Pick me, sir," said Rusty. "Pick me," said Sir Handel. Rheneas and Skarloey were determined to see the engine. But Sir Topham Hatt chose Peter Sam. When Sir Topham Hatt left, Peter Sam set off importantly. He can't wait to meet the new engine. Peter Sam was getting excited to meet up with the new engine. "I wonder if he could work with Rusty," Peter Sam said to himself. Soon Peter Sam was approaching the wharf. He felt very grand. Soon Peter Sam arrived at the wharf, and he was right. The new engine is a diesel. So Peter Sam introduced himself. "Hello," said Peter Sam. "My name is Peter Sam. What's yours?" "I'm Frank," said the new diesel. Then James arrived at the wharf. He wanted to see the new narrow gauge engine too. "What do you think, Peter Sam?" asked James. Peter Sam was impressed. "He's amazing," said Peter Sam. "Frank, would you like to work with me? I'll be your back engine and we'll go to the quarry together." "That's a great idea, Peter Sam," said Frank. "So you see, Frank," said James, "I know a lot of diesels. I've already known Mavis and Salty and many other diesels, but I never liked how they're boastful in their habits." Peter Sam couldn't wait to get to work with his new friend. Soon, the two friends switched their place. Frank was in front, and Peter Sam was at the back. Soon the two friends set off. "Let's go, Frank," said Peter Sam. "Right away," Frank called back. "Good luck," whistled James. Peter Sam whistled back, and James departed with his goods train. Peter Sam showed Frank many beautiful places. Frank stopped. "What's this location?" he asked. "It's the quarry," Peter Sam said happily. Frank was impressed that Peter Sam was showing him the railway. Now Peter, Sam, and Frank arrived at the picnic area. "Looks like the finest place, Peter Sam," boasted Frank. "It sure is," said Peter Sam. We haven't had time to stop. We must get going now, Frank. Well, what are we waiting for? Said Frank as he tooted his horn. Let's get moving, whistled Peter Sam, and away they went. Frank wanted to know that Peter Sam has time to show more places. We could at least look at one more, said Peter Sam. Frank was happy, and so was Peter Sam. When Peter Sam and Frank arrived at Top Station, Peter Sam saw Catherine. I have to carry passengers now, Frank, said Peter Sam, but I'll see you at home. Where should I go? Asked Frank. You can go to the quarry, and I'll meet you back at the shed, said Peter Sam. Catherine and I will have to take the passengers to the wharf. So Frank hurried off to the quarry. Hello, Peter Sam, said Catherine. Hello, said Peter Sam. The passengers are going on a boat trip, so I have to go to the wharf and talk to James. And he puffed proudly away. Once Peter Sam arrived back at the wharf, James had already delivered his call to Brendam Docks. Did you show Frank a lot of beautiful places? Asked James. Yes, said Peter Sam. Now you've got to see my new coach, Catherine. James was impressed. So Catherine said hello to James, and Peter Sam set off for home. When Peter Sam arrived home, Frank was talking to the other engines. Welcome to our railway, Frank, said Rusty. Frank smiled his biggest smile, and Peter Sam smiled too.